Hey everybody, Jeff aka GCurse here. Welcome to another episode of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. Today I have a case that has an ending. It could be seen as possibly a happy ending, but ultimately it leaves more questions than answers. And that is the case of George Marsh. This is a lost heirs case. I will give you a brief breakdown of the information. Basically, George disappeared. He ended up dying, sadly. He left behind a huge, I don't want to say huge, but it was a large amount of money for that time. And the authorities were trying to find his family, basically. That's as far as I'm going to get into it. However, I will return after these commercials from the 1970s, and we will get to the case reading. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Monday on AN, hairstylist Alan Edwards previews the 1979 look for the men in your life.
Channel 7 wishes you the happiest of New Year's.
New Year's Rockin' Eve 79 is brought to you by Tickle Antiperspirant. It feels smooth, feels gentle, and Tickle helps stop wetness. And Dr. Pepper and sugar-free Dr. Pepper, who say, be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper.
I drink Dr. Pepper and I'm proud. I used to be alone in a crowd, but now you look around these days, there seems to be a Dr. Pepper craze. I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, we're a pepper, wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, if you drink Dr. Pepper, you're a pepper too. Us peppers are an interesting breed. An original taste is what we need. Ask any pepper and he'll say, only Dr. Pepper tastes that way. I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, we're a pepper, wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, we're a pepper, wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? Be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper. Come on! Be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper. Right. Be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper.
Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoy those commercials. Up next, we have the case reading. This, to those who are not aware, this is not actually a case viewing, like a video viewing. This is just, I'm going to go to the Unsolved Mysteries wiki, and I will have my secretary, it's actually the read aloud program for my internet browser. It's going to read to us the case, and I'll pause every now and then and give you my thoughts. But I like to have, I basically like to use the term secretary when it comes to the program reader. And I went through a painstakingly long interview process to find the right secretary for everybody. I really did not. I just went through an AI image generator and I typed in brunette secretary, and it gave me a few, it popped out a few images. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to everyone the secretary, the nicely polite, I guess. Okay, this is going off the rails. Here is Jasmine. So basically, she is going to read to us the case of George Marsh. She is currently on a probationary period right now, so if she messes up too much, we'll find a new secretary. I hope not, because it took forever to find this secretary. So let's actually turn on this. There we go. So this is the Unsolved Mysteries wiki for George Marsh, and I am going to post the link to the case in the description below so you can read it there. And that is about it. So I'm going to kind of scroll down to here. And then, let's see here, read aloud, there we go, and I will let the secretary take over, and then, like I said, if I feel like saying something, I will let you guys know what I have to say. Okay, Jasmine, you got it. Wait, there she is. Come on.
heirs of George Marsh. Edit. George Marsh, possibly with wife. January 4th. Real name, George Marsh case. Lost heirs location, Kansas City, Missouri. Date, October 21st.
Okay, I just want to let everybody know that this program is probably still in like early beta because it is literally reading off almost everything there is. That's why when it went down to here it said January 4th. But I still find it kind of find it a little bit funny. But yeah, so this program is not in the final stages. I bet this thing is still really brand new. Okay, Jasmine, you may
October 21st, 1982. Case. Details. 94-year-old George R. Marsh, like many people in the United States, lived out the sunset years of his life alone and unnoticed. He watched the world go by from a wheelchair at his favorite window in a Kansas City nursing home.
Okay, so one thing I do want to mention that I forgot to mention in the first segment. For some reason, when they uploaded the massive library of Unsolved Mysteries cases to YouTube, which a lot of people watch, they never actually uploaded the case of George Marsh to YouTube. However, they uploaded the update, basically the ending, for George Marsh, which is kind of weird because a lot of people I've talked to over the years said, "Hey, yeah, Jeff, I saw the George R. Marsh update, but I can't seem to find the case. I watched all the videos. Did I miss it, Jeff?" And I'm like, "No, sorry, dude. For some reason, they omitted that whole case from the YouTube upload. Why omit the whole case, the case video from YouTube, but have the update video?" It's kind of confusing to people who are like, "Hey, I would like to know more about this guy, George Marsh. What did he do with his life?" But let's continue on, shall we? Okay, Jasmine, you got it. Wait, hold on. I can't tell if it's going to play or not.
Home.
Okay.
Yet, this simple, quiet man was also a man of mystery, a common laborer who had secretly amassed a small fortune of $175,000. People who knew him in his later years were surprised that he had left so much money behind. He told one nurse, Ella Freeman, about how he used to work hard, but he did not mention much else about it. She says that he did not appear like he had that kind of money. George died on October 21st, 1982, and is buried in a pauper's grave without even a headstone to mark his...
Okay, one thing I do want to kind of mention is where Jasmine just kind of mentioned that the nurse said that, said that he didn't appear like he had that kind of money. Sometimes people just prefer to live a certain lifestyle. I can't recall the guy's name right now, but there was a case I covered back on Unsolved Mysteries commentary about a guy who ended up having a lot of money, and he ended up, he looked poor, and he lived at the YMCA. That is actually one of my favorite cases. I just can't recall the case right now. But I think we really need to get out of the mindset that people who have money look a certain way. As you can tell here, this guy, George Marsh, had $175,000. Now, by today's standard, that isn't seen as much. But back in the 80s and 70s and before that, $175,000 was not something to just chuckle at. That was a lot of money back then. I think ultimately what we should more look at is the person's character and not how they dress. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, Jasmine. Anytime now. Come on.
Mark is passing. His estate is still unclaimed. He left no will and few traces of his life. But authorities are convinced that at least one of his long-lost relatives is still alive. Perhaps the following clues will help find his heirs. In 1917, a George Marsh moved to Kansas City, Missouri. For the next 20 years, there are no records of his employment. In 1942, he worked as a laborer for the railroad. Decades later, all details of his employment have long since been destroyed. In the early 1950s, he was a night watchman for the Armor Meat Packing Company. But later, those company records were destroyed in a catastrophic fire. The Quality Hill area of downtown Kansas City was home to him for over 60 years. These few facts about his life were discovered by a Kansas City inheritance investigator, Michael Ledman. Ledman thinks that George was a very secretive person. He apparently shared his life with no one. Ledman thought that he would find at least one person who would have been in communication with George or was close to him.
And I can kind of relate to George Marsh. Not that I had a lot of money or anything, but I'm a very secretive person. As you all know, I live by myself ever since my mom passed away. I go to work. It's a job I love. I work almost 20 minutes short, but I work 7 hours 40 minutes. I love what I do. I wake up, I go to work, I do what I love, and I come home. I really don't have that much in the way of a personal life besides, making these videos and sharing them with everybody. So I kind of can relate to George Marsh. Sometimes there are people who just like to have a private life, interacting with a lot of people may not be what we prefer to do. Okay, Jasmine, you may continue. Anytime now, Jasmine. Please.
Him. However, that was not the case. Shopkeeper Joe Canova says that George was a customer at his store for about 10 to 12 years. He remembers that George was a short, older gentleman with a mustache. George was very cautious as to what he would buy. He always tried to buy the sale items, the cheaper products, and the lesser-known products. As he left, he always paid cash for his groceries.
Okay, this kind of goes back to that case with, maybe it's George Stein? I'll when this case is over, when we're done with the case reading of this portion, I will go and see if I can find that case. But anyway, the person that I'm thinking about, the one that lived at the YMCA, he kind of did the same thing. He lived by a very rigid set of rules. He bought the same meals for breakfast, and then I think he bought like 2 more of the same type of breakfast. That way he could have for lunch and dinner. He saved everything. He bought the same suit. I think that people like this just have a certain mindset. Hell, like me. I'll be honest. Even though I have different colored Carhartt shirts, I prefer the black one. I prefer black. But I think people like us just have that same kind of mindset, like cheap, and if possible, and then we get the same things over and over again. Okay, Jasmine, you may now continue. Come on, Jasmine.
Groceries. In 1979, the apartment building where George lived in Kansas City was tragically destroyed by a fire. He lost his home and all his belongings. Totally alone, he was forced to move into the Roanoke Manor nursing home. Freeman recalls that he would just sit in a chair all day long. He never had anything to say to anyone. He spoke with an accent that may have been German. He was right-handed, and the middle finger on his right hand was cut off at the joint. He also had numbers on the inside of his arm, such as 3457. Only once did George have a visitor. She identified herself as Miss Marsh, his sister. She said she lived in New Mexico. She was never traced, but perhaps she is the heir to his fortune. Voter registration records show that during the 1930s, he may have been married. Lula Mae Marsh, a housewife, lived at the same address as him. By 1946, she seems to have disappeared.
Okay, this guy, poor George Marsh, it seems that this guy...
Head nurse Miriam Zweigel says that one day, she asked George if...
Sorry about that. I thought I paused. I thought I did. Anyway, it seems that poor George Marsh has just had it hard the entire time. Like, records that pertain to George Marsh were destroyed, like in catastrophic accidents. His house was burned down. It seems like by the end, poor guy was just kicked in the stomach too many times, and he just figured that he was just going to sit in this chair. He probably loved the chair. It's probably really comfortable. And he was just going to watch the remaining years of his life, kind of just pass him by because he was just done with everything. In the comment section below, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Do you think George Marsh, do you think he was just tired of living and that's why he didn't talk to anybody? Or do you think he was possibly hiding a deep, dark secret? What do you think? Okay, let's continue on.
George, if he had any children. He told her that he had a son. However, he also told her that he had no idea where his son was, and he had not seen him for years. He also said he did not know anything about him. He then tuned her out. He was not willing to elaborate. After George died, the nurses packing his belongings found several bank statements and deposit slips in a bedside drawer. It turned out he had 9 secret checking accounts at 4 different banks. This information was given to the county public administrator, James Aylward, whose job is to find George's heirs. The nursing home turned over several belongings and documents of Mr. Aylward. These items included a birth certificate, some pictures, and a divorce decree. According to the birth certificate found in George's belongings, he was born in 1888 in Czechoslovakia and christened Joseph Zelenka. Aylward says that there are several mysterious things about the case, including why George changed his name, how he accumulated all of the money that he left behind, and who are his heirs. Aylward believes that, for some reason, George cut off all communication with his relatives.
Okay, now that's something I cannot understand. Just so everybody knows, my close family, not like my extended family, but like my close family. Basically, my close family is I have a half sister and my father left. That's it. So and then my further extended family, I think I have a smattering of cousins, a couple uncles, an aunt. 3 uncles and an aunt left, but I haven't seen them. I haven't seen anybody that I mentioned, in over 30 years, possibly. So, do I wish I could, see my family more often? Yeah, I do, but things happen, But this is kind of, it kind of confuses me, because they never explain why it happened. And in the update, which is actually the video that's on YouTube, even the family is like, we do not understand why he stopped talking to us, that there was no bad blood. So it really makes you wonder why someone would go through the rest of their life to their death, not even trying to maintain contact. It's kind of sad if you ask me. Okay. Okay, anytime now.
Relatives. Among George's papers was a divorce decree that, in 1932, ended a marriage between Joseph Zelenka and Catherine Zelenka. He also left behind 5 old and yellowed snapshots. Perhaps one of the people in the photos is the heir to his legacy. One photograph of a young woman was signed, "Your loving niece, Eleanor." Another photograph is apparently that of Catherine Zelenka, as her name is written on the back of it. Yet another photograph is believed to be the only existing one of George. The woman in it may have been his wife, Catherine, or his wife, Lula. Finally, the young boy in another photograph may be George's long-lost son. Whoever they are, one of the people in those pictures may be heir to $175,000. If none of his heirs come forward, after 21 years, George's fortune will be dispersed by the state of Missouri, and his legacy and his memory will be gone forever.
Okay, thank you, Jasmine. I will pick up from this point. I just want to say thank you to Jasmine. She did an awesome job. I think I'll keep her around for another reading. Honestly, I'm just going to keep her, period. It's just the program I just don't like that much right now. It takes forever to load up and everything. But I do want to say thank you, to the people to the website that I got this from. But yeah, so that is Jasmine, the secretary. I will have her back around for the next episode of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. But let's continue. I am going to pick up from this point. So, we have the extra notes. This case originally aired on the September 24th, 1987 special number 3 episode of Unsolved Mysteries. This was back when they had different people hosting the Unsolved Mysteries before Robert Stack took over. It was hosted by Carl Malden as host. It was updated in the November 29th, 1987 special number 4 episode with Robert Stack as the host. It was later reprofiled on the Dennis Farina hosted series on the July 20th, 2009 and July 31st, 2009 episodes. I actually have all those episodes downloaded from YouTube, but I've never had a chance to sit through and watch any of the Dennis Farina cases. So I'm hoping that they may actually have the full case on those. But let's continue on. See here. It was see, this is what I was talking about. It was excluded from the Film Rise release of Robert Stack episodes. However, its update was not omitted. And that's like, well, if you're going to have the update, why not have the full case then, Because people are going to see this little snippet of a case, and they're going to be like, holy shit, I'd like to learn more about this George Marsh. What happened to him? Who was he, And we don't know unless they have it on the Dennis Farina case, upload or downloads or whatever, This was the first Lost Heirs case that was profiled. The show contacted Ledman about interesting cases he was working on, and he suggested this one. Some sources spell George's given name as Joseph, Joseph. Okay, hold on. Let me get a quick drink of water because this is probably going to dry my throat out. Okay, results. Solved. 70-year-old Eleanor Tolar was watching the broadcast and recognized herself as a young woman in the picture. Signed, your loving niece, Eleanor. It was her senior high school picture. She recognized the man next to her as her Uncle Joe. She realized that Joseph was actually her Uncle Joseph, Joe Zelinka. She and her family contacted the local authorities, who contacted Kansas City authorities. Joe had indeed been born in 1888 in Czechoslovakia and had immigrated to the United States with his family at the turn of the century. He moved to Kansas City in the 1920s. His family last saw him in 1931 at his father's funeral at Rock Springs, Wyoming. Well, that sounds like a cool place I would like to visit one of these days. Rock Springs, that sounds awesome. I like that name. Where most of his relatives still live. Joe's 90-year-old brother, Jim Zelinka, had been looking for him for decades. Jim has no idea why Joe stayed away from the family. He says there were no hard feelings, and they were all united always in everything. He does remember that Joe was always mysterious as a young man. He would appear out of nowhere with large sums of money. He also seemed to have a different woman with him. Okay, let's just be honest. Having a different woman with him. If they weren't married, maybe he'd just like to have female companionship at the time. Would I like to walk around town with a new woman every day of the week? Probably. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If the guy's not married, let him have his vices, as long as it does not cause anybody any problems. Let's see here. Where was I? Jim speculates that he used an alias because he did not want to hurt the family name. He believes that Joe may have been involved in bootlegging or prostitution while in Kansas City. Well, that could explain why he may have had a different woman with him each time of the, after every visit. The Zelenkas pulled together birth certificates, photos, and other documents linking them to Joe. They submitted this information to the public administrator's office in Kansas City. Jim and Eleanor planned to divide the $175,000 among Joe's surviving relatives. But more importantly, they want to preserve Joe's memory by bringing him back, his body back to the family burial site. Jim says that the money is not as important as finding out what happened to Joe. He says that he feels good all over to know that they located him and know where he is. He is glad that he will be able to bring Joe's body back to rest with the family, to rest with the rest of the family. In May 1989, a Jackson County probate judge ruled that George was, in fact, Joe, and that 24 of his relatives would divide his fortune. So let's just do a quick math, shall we? So divide that 175,000 by 24. What does that equal out to? So about $7,291 roughly. Not bad. See here. Let's see here. Divided fortune. About a quarter of it went to. So a quarter of it went to Jim, his last surviving sibling. His family used some of the money to bring his body back to the family burial site in Wyoming. On January 17th, 1995, Jim passed away at the age of 97. On January 10th, 1998, Eleanor passed away at the age of 86. Wow. And then we have various links. So let's go to George Marsh, a.k.a. Joseph Zelenka at Find a Grave. Now, I actually go to this website a lot when I do the Unsolved Mysteries commentary on Facebook, which you can, find on Facebook. I recently finished a few months ago season 1, and pretty soon I'm probably going to start season 2, but I'm just on a little bit of a break from that. Joseph Zelenka, date of birth was May 13th, 1988, and Seska Ribna. Oh, he was born in the Czech Republic. Let's just say that. His date of death was October 21st, 1982. He was age 94. He died in Missouri. Burial is at Rock Springs Cemetery. God, that is a nice name. I like that name. Rock Springs. So I don't know what it is. I hear the name Rock Springs and it extrudes. I think that's the right word. It extrudes a sense of power. I like that. In Rock Springs, Sweetwater County. I don't know why I say county like that. Wyoming, USA. And then plot as Usleto _G_4_4. Okay, let's take a look at some of these pictures. We have Joseph Zelenka here. And then we have his tombstone, brother Joseph Zelenka, May 13, 1888, sorry, to October 21st, 1982. And then Frank Zelenka, oh God, I don't know who Frank is, but, and then just his family. And then that is about it for his. Let's take a look at his family members since we got a few here. And that's what this is one of the things that I always kind of am in awe about when I go to these do these cases and I look at the family that they have, because look at it's just it's really unique to see people who were born over 100 years ago, so we have Vaclav Zelenka, 1859 to 1931. Eleonora Temej, I'm sorry if I butchered that, Zelenka, 1869 to 1920. So those were his parents. Then we had Sophia, for siblings, we had Sophia Zelenka Bashalik, 1886 to 1941. Anna Zelenka Novak, 1891 to 1927. Frank Zelenka, 1895 to 1947. And James Peter Zelenka, 1897 to 1995. And it looks like, honestly, it looks like James was the one that lived the longest out of all of his siblings. And that is about it. We have some flowers. View all. Let's see here. What do we got? View all. Normally I don't really check out the flowers. Just thinking of you. And normally once in a while I will sign in. I haven't actually signed into this website in quite a long time. And if it's a case that really pulls at my heart, kind of like this one, I will most likely leave a flower. Just say, hey, I saw your case on Unsolved Mysteries. You may actually see that pretty quickly. Actually, here, hold on 1 second. I'm going to pause it so I can get my login credentials. So I will be right back. All right, so we are back with the Joseph Zelenka Find a Grave, and I am logged in. I'm under my Unsolved Mysteries commentary. So if you ever want to see what I say, let's see here. Let's see here. Share. Oh, leave a flower. Here we go. Okay, let's leave a flower. I'll be honest. I don't understand what I hear that certain flowers have certain meanings, but I don't know what they are. So I'm just going to go with, let's do a white carnation. It looks nice. Unsolved Mysteries commentary, add flower and note. Oh, okay, here we go, note. Saw this case on the original run of Unsolved Mysteries. I also saw the update on YouTube. Let's see. I wish well of all his family. I'm glad they were able to finally have some closure. There you go. And that's basically what I like to do. I like I said, normally I only do this on cases that really pull at me. If it's like criminals and stuff, or the victims of criminals, I'll also post. But if it's a criminal, I normally don't give them the time of day. They do not deserve that kind of stuff. But for something like this, we don't know exactly that much about Joseph, and I feel bad for the guy. I do, yeah. But that is about it. So when I return, I am going to, let's see here. Let's turn this off. There we go. Hold on, let me just try something. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Okay, so when I return, I'm going to give you my final thoughts about this case, and that is about it. So I will be right back after these commercials.
We really work up a thirst around here, but we like to watch our shape. Diet soft drinks really got us down. We didn't like the aftertaste, but then we tried sugar-free Dr. Pepper. It tastes terrific. Wow! Sugar-free Dr. Pepper tastes fattening, but it's not. How can sugar-free taste so sugarful? What a great taste this one's got. Sugar-free Dr. Pepper tastes fattening, but it's not.
Tuesday.
Give me 5.
Fonzie is secretly married.
What?
He has a kid and everything.
Fonzie a father? Find out on Happy Days.
I don't think they made up yet.
Then it's love at first bite, and Laverne and Shirley play matchmaker.
Hello, sweetie.
Then Jack takes on the neighborhood bully on Three's Company.
He's asking for it. You want to get married?
And John's surefire line backfires.
Sure.
On Taxi.
Tuesday on ABC.
In one of her last articles, the late anthropologist Margaret Mead examined the growing pressures on the nuclear family and suggested ways that television can help relieve those pressures. You can read her provocative ideas in TV Guide. Then, a noted educator tells parents how they can make better use of television to help their children learn. Don't miss a special sports wrap-up on all the bowl games and a profile of that television staple Dick Clark in the new issue of TV Guide.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. In the previous segment, I actually forgot to look up the person I mentioned about living at the YMCA. And the person that I was actually referring to, his name was Howard Drummond. He lived at the YMCA. He lived by a very frugal, frugal lifestyle. He actually amassed more a fortune, basically $250,000. And like I said, he lived by his own set of rules. He wore, he had the same set of clothing that he'd always liked to wear. He bought the same meals. But yeah, so this is who I was referring to, the heirs of Howard Drummond. And that I will post a link to this case also in the description below. So you all can kind of look at these cases and kind of compare notes and everything. With that out of the way, here, let's do this. Okay, no, not that. Okay, hold on. There we go. With that out of the way, it is now time for my final thoughts. Overall, I am very glad that they actually were able to find the heirs to George Marsh. I'm actually kind of, like I said, this has a happy ending, but it leaves more questions than answers. Like, why did George Marsh, or as we later found out, his name is Joe Zelinka, why did he go about this this path that he went on? It's totally unknown, But, it's just, sometimes people do things that, a lot of us don't understand. Even his brother said that his brother was mysterious when he was younger. They have a couple theories, and that's all they are. Or one of them was the theory that he could have been dealt with prostitution. Now, we don't know that. I'm not saying if he did or not. That's not for me to say. But yeah, I'm just overall glad that there was some sort of closure to this case, even though there are still, more questions that will most likely never be answered. But finally, the family has, they have the answer that they've been looking for, I guess you could say. But yeah, I'm glad. But that is about it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have enjoyed another file from the black site of Unsolved, file from Black Site, a file from the black site of Unsolved Mysteries. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse, your friendly host, and I will see you next time for the next episode of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. Take it easy and peace out, everybody. Stay safe.